A group of women gathered in 1980 in a USA-wide convocation in Michigan to discuss the process. It was the first uniquely Unitarian Universalist water ritual that was constructed. Lucille Shuck Longview and Carolyn McDade called it coming home like waters and rivers to the sea. They asked several women from across the United States to bring water from where they came from, emphasizing the connection of all of our lives to each other and to this planet through water. They came from the Rio Grande, from New York, from Canada, from the Atlantic, and from the Pacific. And what I so enjoyed sharing with you last week, and I hope you remember from our very elaborate demonstration that led to motor oil all over Beautiful Savior, which I ended up cleaning up quite thoroughly later, was that the women who attended in their bags had their cosmetics and their perfumes, and they were so moved by this sense that there is something deeper that we belong to, that you belong to something so deep and so old and so sacred like water, that they emptied out their cosmetics and their perfumes, and they filled their cups with the water that was gathered. That was the first UU water communion. So we invoke this tradition 40 years now in the making to guide us today and into our new year in two ways, but many more. One, remember and reconnect with water. It seems so simple. We turn on our faucet and it comes out, but yet if you were to pause, to let your hand feel the drip, to wonder from where do you come, that would be religious living, even while washing the dishes. We come to imagine each way water is sacred to us. We ourselves, all of you, 100 little inland saltwater ponds. You, 60% water, moving and caring for each other, hurting for each other, harming each other, healing each other, loving each other, making each other. I myself now making a human being in water. Trust me, I feel it. We ourselves evolving from the grand story of life from seas. We are water. The religious life says, notice it, care for it, steward it. As people who live in Tucson, we come from a people and a story that includes issues of water rights and water access across this city. It is Tucson's water flowing out of those mountains and the people who knew how to steward it that made this place a livable place for many of us to migrate to. Water. Two, we bless each other and ourselves through ritual and community. Now, some of us come to community having experienced religious harm, for which the words ritual and church rightfully ache. What I will say to us, though, is that humans are not born, they are made. Humans are made through the intentional acts we make with each other. For ourselves and one another, culture is made this way. We make each other through ritual, but we can redefine it. So I spoke last week about the image of the watershed, that at the very top of a watershed, small streams and small drops drip off the edges of leaves and rocks and glaciers and soon find themselves downstream, moving into bigger and wider and more powerful waterways, working themselves to an ocean of formidable force, finding themselves carried and lifted up by sunlight, only to come back from where they came from. This too is a religious image. It says to us that we, although personal, are always collective, and that the collective will influence our personhood, and the care we take in our personhood impacts our collective. This is an interdependent web of existence. So culture will be made today. You are making culture today. We will choose to act together today in ritual. Our actions will be the choice to pour out what you no longer need, to be filled up by what will sustain your life and sustain the life of this congregation as a movement capable of etching the world with kindness and justice. We must fill our cosmetic bottles with the stuff that will truly sustain us. So today, as we move through a ritual of water, we will make the water holy, not because a priest or a minister has touched it, although but because you, in your relatedness, have chosen to come together. That's what makes this water holy. So let's say later this year, a baby will be blessed by what you make today. And it is likely that someone in our community might die, and they too will be blessed by what you make today. And that each day when we drop a stone into water for the tiny and big joys and sorrows, the stone will be received by what you make today. That is water communion. May we be filled up to now and in our days to come.